The night Amara was thrown out of her parents' house, the rain fell as though heaven itself had judged her guilty. At barely 16, her swollen belly stood as evidence of a mistake she could not undo, and her father's final words echoed louder than the thunder. "You are no longer our daughter." Her classmates whispered, her teachers avoided her eyes, and the boy responsible denied ever touching her. With nowhere to go, Amara wandered the restless streets of Lagos until exhaustion led her beneath a crowded bridge where homeless families slept on torn mats. There, surrounded by strangers and the roar of passing vehicles, she learned that survival was louder than shame. Hunger clawed at her daily, yet she protected her unborn child fiercely, promising the life growing inside her that she would never abandon her the way she had been abandoned. Months later, pain seized her body in the middle of the night, and under the dim glow of street lights, with the help of an elderly woman who lived beneath the bridge, Amara gave birth to a baby girl. The child cried loudly, as if announcing her refusal to be born into silence. Amara named her Chiamaka, meaning God is beautiful, because despite suffering, the baby felt like hope wrapped in fragile skin. Determined to change their fate, Amara found work as a cleaner in a small restaurant, saving every coin while carrying her baby on her back. Years passed, and the little girl grew into a brilliant, cheerful 7-year-old whose laughter softened every hardship. But destiny, like a hidden storm, was already gathering beyond Amara's fragile happiness, and it would soon arrive in the form of a man. One hot afternoon, while returning from work, Amara noticed a luxurious black car slowing beside the dusty roadside. The window rolled down to reveal a handsome man whose confidence seemed to silence the chaos around him. He introduced himself as Emmanuel and politely asked for directions after getting lost in the busy streets. His voice carried warmth and his smile lingered longer than necessary. Amara nervously explained the route, unaware that this brief encounter would change the direction of her life. Emmanuel, a wealthy businessman known across the city, found himself intrigued by her humility and strength. He began visiting often under the excuse of needing help navigating the area, and slowly, conversations turned into laughter, laughter into companionship, and companionship into love. For the first time since her teenage disgrace, Amara felt seen, not as a struggling single mother, but as a woman worthy of affection. Emmanuel showered her with gifts and attention, promising stability she had never known. When she finally invited him to her modest home, she introduced him to Chiamaka, who greeted him with innocent curiosity and bright intelligence. Emmanuel smiled politely, yet something unreadable flickered in his eyes. Months later, beneath glittering chandeliers in his grand mansion, he proposed marriage, and Amara accepted through tears of joy, believing her suffering had finally ended. But happiness built too quickly often hides cracks beneath its duty, and Emmanuel was about to reveal a condition that would shake her soul. The air inside Emmanuel's mansion felt unusually cold when Amara visited to plan their wedding. As they discussed decorations and guest lists, Emmanuel suddenly grew serious. He held her hand gently and spoke words that pierced deeper than any insult she had ever endured. After their marriage, her daughter could not live with them. He insisted that a child from another man would ruin his reputation and suggested placing Chiamaka in an orphanage where she would be better cared for. Amara's heartbeat thundered in her ears as disbelief swallowed her voice. She stared at the man she loved, searching his face for a joke, but found only certainty. The dream she cherished suddenly demanded a price she never imagined she would be asked to pay. Confused and broken, she confided in her best friend Ada, who reacted with anger and shock. Ada warned her family that any man who rejected her child did not truly love her. "Choose your daughter," Ada pleaded, reminding her of the nights beneath the bridge and the sacrifices made to keep the child alive.
Yet Amara's mind became a battlefield between gratitude for her daughter and fear of losing the luxurious future Emmanuel promised. Days later, driven by desperation, Amara took Chiamaka far from home and abandoned her by the roadside under the pretense of returning soon. But fate intervened when a stranger safely brought the child back, questioning Amara's actions. Shame burned inside her, yet instead of awakening her conscience, it planted a darker resolve, and she began to search for a permanent solution.
Guilt whispered to Amara at night, but ambition shouted louder during the day. Convinced that her daughter stood between her and a perfect life, she allowed her heart to harden little by little. One evening, she purchased a poisonous leaf known in local folklore to resemble a harmless cooking vegetable. Her hands trembled as she prepared Chiamaka's favorite meal, Indomie noodles, mixing the deadly ingredient into the food while convincing herself it was destiny's cruel demand. The child ate happily, praising her mother's cooking with innocent trust that pierced the silence of the room. Minutes later, Chiamaka's laughter faded into coughing, then weakness, then stillness. The house became unbearably quiet as realization struck too late. Amara had destroyed the very miracle that once saved her life. When Ada arrived shortly after, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Seeing the lifeless child, she screamed in horror, and the truth unraveled under Amara's trembling confession. Ada's grief turned into fury. She condemned Amara for trading motherhood for a man who had not yet proven worthy of her sacrifice. Declaring their friendship over, Ada walked away, leaving Amara alone with the consequences of her choice. The walls seemed to close in, and even Emmanuel's comforting words over the phone felt distant and hollow. Unknown to Amara, the earth never forgets innocent blood, and the debt she created was already waiting to be repaid. Years passed, and Amara married Emmanuel in a lavish ceremony admired by society. She lived in luxury, surrounded by wealth she once dreamed of, yet her nights were haunted by echoes of a child's laughter. Despite countless hospital visits and traditional remedies, she could not conceive again. Doctors declared her perfectly healthy, but no pregnancy came. Emmanuel's patience turned into resentment, and he began calling her barren, his affection slowly replaced by cruelty. Each insult felt like judgment from an unseen court. 3 years into the marriage, Amara discovered the ultimate betrayal. Emmanuel had fathered 3 children with another woman during their marriage. The man she sacrificed everything for had never been faithful nor deserving. The revelation shattered her spirit completely. Standing alone in her grand house, Amara finally understood the weight of her actions. Wealth could not silence guilt, and love built on betrayal could never bring peace. She realized that she had exchanged unconditional love for temporary comfort and lost both in the process. In dreams, she often saw Chiamaka smiling sadly before disappearing into darkness, leaving her reaching endlessly for forgiveness she could never fully receive. From that day, Amara devoted her life to helping abandoned children, hoping to ease a pain that never faded. And, as elders would later tell this story like a warning carried by the wind, they ended with a lesson. Any love that asks you to destroy what is sacred is not love, but destruction wearing a beautiful face. Yet, many who hear the tale still wonder, if Amara had chosen differently, would her daughter's laughter still be echoing in the world today? And somewhere in the silence of the night, the question remains unanswered.